Ready? Ready? All right, you can turn this on. Okay. All right, welcome everyone. That's probably not loud enough. Nope. Can you hear me? A little louder, if it goes louder. Okay, that's it. All right. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. We're so excited to be here at Alloy 5. Thank you, Michael Metzger and your team for hosting us. Really gorgeous space to be at and in the heart of everything we're talking about today. So thank you again for hosting. Thank you to Joe Kelly for being here representing Senator Boscola's office, and to Council President Cologne and Councilwomen Kwiatek and Wilhelm. I would now like to welcome up Mayor Reynolds to talk about what we are here to announce today, which is really exciting stuff. So welcome up, Mayor.
Thank you. We wanted to have it here at this time at 3:30 because we know it's hard to hear us, which is part of the point of the problems with Broad Street here. That formula that we're using in City Hall is pretty simple. We identify the areas of the city that we want to improve. We're honest with each other about what they are. And then we get to work with that combination of energy, passion, and most of all, that community creativity. We talk about a vision a lot, about what we want. And anybody that's ever lived on the west side of Bethlehem knows that Broad Street is not what you like about living on the west side. It is difficult to cross. It is dangerous. There are beautiful properties up and down Broad Street, but all of them are hidden by the fact that we have this type of street, as we know, as the name says, that is entirely too broad. That kind of formula that we have used, what can we do in the short term? And also what can we do in the long term? That vision, that's what we've used throughout the city. We've done that in the South Side with Southside Vision 2014 and 2020, which helped to lead to the Greenway and streetscape improvements and steel stacks. We've done that with Northside 2027, which is helping to lead us to put the co-op, as we broke ground on last week, convert Linden into a two-way street, as well as all the other great things we have going on over there. So what we're here to talk about today is all of the different things we have planned for our kind of revitalization and investment in the West Side. And as you can see on here, we have several announcements to make. The first one is after 2 years being closed, West Side Pool is going to be open again. So West Side Pool was closed in 2020 and 2021. It is going to be open again starting on June 11th. So our recreation department has worked super hard with our community. We've raised how much we are paying our lifeguards from $10 to $12. I went and I talked to the swim teams at Liberty and Freedom, and we are happy to announce that we're going to be open to all 5 pools, but especially West Side. And that's one thing that people in the neighborhoods have talked about a lot, is that we want that pool open. Also, up the street here at the park here at 4th and Market Street, Fairview Park. Next year, the Pennsylvania Municipal League is coming to Bethlehem to have their annual convention. And when they're here, one of the things, and some of you might remember when they came in 2010, we had redesigned and rebuilt Higbee Park down there on Spring Street. So next year in October, when the Municipal League comes to Bethlehem, we are going to put about $200,000 into Fairview Park up here at the corner of 4th and Market Street. That's going to be a combination of a new multi-sport surface space that we're putting in there, greenscape, hardscape, and there's also going to be a public engagement process where we're going to talk to people in the neighborhood about what is it you want us to spend our dollars on. And a lot of times what these initiatives come down to is how do we balance out the idea that there's a lot of passion? What can we do on Saturday for 2 hours? What can we use with energy versus the fact that any type of long-term vision is going to come down to our ability to keep people engaged, get grant funding, and lay out a vision for what we're trying to do. The third thing that we have talked about before is obviously we're super excited about our Live in the Garden, which is kicking off on Saturday from 6 to 8. For the next seven Saturdays, we are going to have music there. We've had music there in the past, but we really are trying to come up with a kind of a diverse, eclectic group of musicians from our community to kind of bring more. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be beverages. There's going to be a lot going on that, once again, to try to reactivate that space. And then the highlight of what we're talking about today is this idea of reimagining Broad Street. This is a street that is clearly built for cars and not for people. So one of the things that we undertook last year was the Broad Street Activation Plan, and Ben Guthrie is here from TPD, who helped to run that. Thank you, Ben, for engaging us to getting us to this point here. And as I said, Broad Street here is designed for cars, and it's not designed for people. It is a safety problem. Several of you commented before you even knew what we were talking about how difficult it was crossing the street here today. It is a problem for students. As I said before, it also doesn't allow us to highlight all of the beautiful architecture and different things we have going down up and down the corridor. And the bottom line is it divides the west side. It has a huge structural barrier that makes it difficult to really have a unified west side. And this is not a street people like to walk on. People should be enjoying this walk. We've all been to cities. We've been to other parts of Bethlehem where you can walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. You have that up the street on Market and Prospect. You don't have that on Broad Street. Anybody here, I can stop talking about this because anybody that lives within any area close to Broad Street knows what we're talking about. This is not going to be a process that's going to be quick, though. And what we have is we have TPD working with Alloy 5, who, once again, we want to thank for hosting us today, that are going to lay out this vision and this creativity and start to do the engineering about how we're going to be able to reimagine this corridor. It's definitely going to take phases. It's going to take all of those things that we like when we go to other urban livable areas, as far as bump outs, as far as islands, as far as enhanced safety crosswalks. What is it lighting? These different types of things that are going to make this corridor the kind of place that is going to add some livability and add a quality of life to our area. So that process that TPD and Alloy 5 are going to be undertaking is going to be one that over the next several months is going to be engaging the community, building on the plan that the community had started to talk about last year as far as how to increase the safety of Broad Street. And then we're going to get to work on implementing it. These things often are not done easy. It takes years and years and years, but it has to start with a vision. But as with everything else we do, we're not going to wait to the end to start doing things. So we also have plans for 2022 here where we're going to do some kind of temporary projects. And I'm actually going to call on our Director of Planning and Zoning, Darlene Heller, to come on up and talk a little bit about what those plans might look like, how they kind of grew out of the TPD study, and we'll go from there. So, Darlene?
Thank you, Mayor Reynolds. It's a great day to be outside, honestly. It feels good to be amongst people again, and it's just beautiful to be out here sharing this with everybody. The active transportation plan that we did for Broad Street was so well received. Everybody came out to our public meetings. We had those meetings during COVID, and we had beautiful weather like this for each of our outdoor public gatherings. So it was a wonderful process, and TPD was of great help to us. We had a lot of community input. It's such a wide street here on Bethlehem. Honestly, there was more than one scenario of how we could move forward. And as the mayor said, this is a project that takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. So we're going to have to phase it. So what could we do this year? How can we really start and continue the process so that we don't lose momentum? So one of the recommendations in the plan is to do a pop-up project or a demonstration project. We can lay out in a temporary way what the bike lanes would look like, how we would shift the driving lanes, where would the bump outs be at the intersection, and lay that out for a couple of blocks and let that up for a little bit. Let the community experience it, let people bike it, let people walk it, and then we'll get some feedback about how does that feel to the community. So we've never done this before. This is kind of new for us, but before we invest long-term in public infrastructure, we'll be working with TPD and Alloy 5, and we'll lay that out with public input and see what kind of reaction we get. And then we know as we move forward into later phases of design and engineering that we're moving in the right direction, that this is the kind of street and the corridor that the people on the west side really want to be able to experience. So I'm pretty excited about it. This is new for us. It's a new way of getting the public input, and we'll see how that goes. So we'll be back in touch as we move forward with that.
Thank you, Darlene. And Darlene really hit on what we're trying to do here. We're trying to change the energy and the feel of Broad Street. We've all been to places where we don't need to explain what it is that we like about it. It draws us there. It attracts us there. And we have a lot of neighborhoods that aren't even that far away from Broad Street. But Broad Street is a negative kind of influence on those things. So as we move forward, we are super excited. As Darlene said, this is a different way that we're going to go about doing these things. But it is community driven. We are super excited that Alloy 5 is going to be leading this process. Thank you, Mike, and everybody with the team right here in the middle of the community, right here at the corner of 5th and Broad. They've been doing some great things up the street here with some of their other investments, and we are super excited they're a partner. And if you take a look at even the people that work for the city, whether or not it's Darlene, who lives a couple blocks away, and Sarah Satullo, who lives a couple blocks away, and Michael lives on the west side, this is an area where a lot of people want to be engaged in. And we are just super excited to kind of launch this revitalization and launch these long-term investments where we do something that if you've been around Bethlehem, we should have done a long time ago. And that's build Broad Street. So it's for the people in the neighborhood. So it's an area in which we can really take pride in what we have as an urban landscape and not this type of road that, as we can tell, is not the easiest place to have a press conference at 3:30 in the afternoon on. So once again, it's hot. So thank you for everybody coming out today. We will obviously hang out to be able to answer individual questions, but today's another new beginning for us, and we couldn't be more excited. So thank you.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming out. We would now like to invite you inside to enjoy some local West Side food, thanks to Alloy 5.